Women focus for next round of APEC Meets. PNGDF engineers set for Manam damage assessments. And polio vaccination rollout in Leh into Mop-up Phase.
This is National MTV News with Meriba Tulo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is Monday's news. The second APEC Policy Partnership on Women in Economy meeting aims to advance the economic integration of women in APEC member countries. It began this morning in Port Moresby, with Papua New Guinea headlining the discussions. High on the agenda are attempts to increase women's participation in the economic sectors for each member country.
The 2 days of discussions are aimed at finalizing agendas that will be raised during the APEC Leaders Summit in November. Carrying on from what was discussed in the first policy partnership on women and the economy earlier this year, the working group will discuss agendas on the strategic plan for PPEW and the individual action plans on the enhancement of women representation in leadership, something the Papua New Guinea government has been trying to achieve in national elections. And individual action plans for the enhancement of the ratio of women's representation in leadership, something the PNG government has been trying to achieve during national elections.
I'd like to start by stressing, reiterating the importance of the work that we do here under PPWE. As we all know, gender and women's economic empowerment is a cross-cutting issue. A large part of the work that we do in APEC under our inclusive growth narrative that we like to boast of sometimes. So I'd like to say that the work on that we do here in PPWE has particular importance this year as the hosts in 2018 have placed a lot of importance on harnessing inclusive growth, embracing the digital future, a fusion of emerging issues.
The first high-level discussion on women in economy dialogue was held in 2011 in San Francisco in the United States of America to create a platform to promote women in economies as an integral part of the APEC agenda. Since then, it has seen benefits from closer collaborations with APEC and the APEC Business Advisory Council.
We meet at an important time. It's the Women in the Economy Forum. On Thursday and Friday, we have the PPDWE and then the high-level policy dialogue. So we have quite a busy agenda here before us to get through in the next 2 days. And I look forward to your active participation and discussions in this as we try to firm up on our preparations.
For the second PPWE meeting, it will conclude tomorrow evening, and the APEC Secretariat is expected to release a statement on the agenda that were talked about. Thakla Gunga, National MTV News.
Partnership with the private sector is a way forward for the government to achieving its medium-term development plan. National Planning Minister and Monitoring Minister Richard Maro at the Investment Summit today said the role of the government is to provide a conducive environment for the private sector.
Minister Maro said in the Medium-Term Development Plan 3, which will be launched shortly, the government will look at ways to build a stronger and more sustainable economy. He added that the government cannot achieve these goals without a partnership with the private sector and churches. He said the role of government is to provide a conducive environment for the private sector to engage with government.
To appreciate why I'm saying the government cannot do it alone. We are absolutely limited by the resources that we have available to us. That's why in the medium-term development plan number 3, our first and most important goal is to build a bigger, more inclusive and more sustainable economy that is dependent more on the non-resource sector. So we are looking at trying to double our internal revenue.
Under the medium-term development plan, the government will concentrate on infrastructure development. The minister said they will build 5 more national highways, 3 international warps, and open up key economic hubs.
We are looking to elevate our partnership with all our partners in a very big way. And certainly if we're able to do that, we believe we'll be on our way towards achieving some of the key targets in the sustainable development goals that our country is working towards meeting.
The Speaker's Investment Summit is a good opportunity for the ministers to engage with partners and donor agencies to encourage service delivery. The summit began today and ends on the 5th of September. Rayon Lakingu, National EMTV News.
Papua New Guinea Defence Force engineers are set to conduct damage assessments on the recent volcanic eruption on Manam Island in Medang Province. Michelle Stevens with the details.
The team led by Lieutenant Desmond Ruben comprises combat medical officials and engineers based in Leh. The team will help in building proper water wells and other needs to the villages affected. They will also plan and assist medevac activities in the affected areas. According to the villages, all their water wells have been damaged by volcanic ash falling from the volcano, and it is very unsafe for drinking. The findings from the assessment will determine how much clean drinking water, food and medical supplies is needed on the island. Her Majesty's Papua New Guinea ship, or PNGDF Mosby, will transport 20 boxes of relief supplies from the provincial government, and 20 more personnel will be flown by chopper into the area to boost manpower. Michelle Stephen, National EMTV News.
Education Minister Nick Kuman was at the opening ceremony of the 2018 National Literacy Week in Port Moresby today. The minister said PNG's literacy rate is low at 63.4% according to a 2015 report. The adult literacy rate increased from 57.3% in the year 2000 to 63.4% in 2015, growing at an average annual rate of 5.28%. The national literacy rate for women is at 61.77% and men at 65.06% as recorded in 2015. He said according to the national youth literacy rate in 2015, it was at 66.68%. Between the years 2000 and 2015, Papua New Guinea national youth literacy rates remained stable at around 66.68%. Overall, 9 of the 22 provinces have not reached an acceptable literacy rate. This implies that our national literacy rate is relatively low, which urgently requires government's immediate intervention. You're watching National EMTV News. Stay tuned. We have more of the day's stories when we come back. Welcome back to the news. Round 2 of polio vaccinations ended today in the Mop-up Province and will continue with the mop-up process for the next 2 days to ensure all children under the age of 5 are vaccinated. All parents in Leh and the wider Mop-up Province are being urged by the Provincial Program Advisor for Health, Micah Yawing, to bring their children in for vaccination if they haven't done so.
Round 2 of polio vaccinations in Leh started on the 20th of August and ended today. According to Provincial Program Advisor for Health, Micah Yawing, teams in Morobe have already reached 100% of coverage. This is expected to increase during the next 2 days of mop-ups.
All the districts are doing fine except for remote areas they're going to reach. So today we reached province cover 102%, which is a good achievement as the first round.
Polio is an infectious disease that affects children under the ages of 5, causing paralysis. In July, a polio outbreak was declared after 1 case was detected in the Morobe province. Mr. Yawing says there was 1 polio case identified during round 2. However, this is yet to be confirmed.
Suspect of 1 polio case in Moching, so our surveillance, our disease control officers and ANGAO staff, they're doing a fine job in terms of surveillance, like making sure that they get a tool and then from there we will confirm whether we have a second or third case in the province.
Mr. Yawing says despite setbacks experienced with the weather, logistics and manpower, the vaccinations were conducted successfully. He is calling on all parents to ensure their children are vaccinated during the mop-up process over the next 2 days.
Make sure that children must come for second round, because first round is starting up. So second round is to keep more strength, and then third round is to know more support to protect them, and then fourth round will really give them the protection that they need to get. So that.
Lucy Kopana, National MTV News, Leh.
The Board of Directors of Oktiri Mining Limited recently visited shareholder villages in the Western Province. The team of directors visited Kasa and Kaviananga in the lower Middlefly River. Chairman Semoy Ave praised leaders of both villages for using their compensation money wisely. He also challenged them to invest in health and education for their children. Managing Director and CEO Peter Graham said the board is responsible for shareholders and to what happens at Oktiri. Graham said it is important to talk with community leaders to address issues and work in partnership and understand joint priorities. A two-day workshop in Mount Hagen, which started today, will see small and medium road contractors better understand their contribution to the development of Papua New Guinea. It is a joint initiative of the Transport Department, the Department of Works and the National Roads Authority, and the Department of Trade, Commerce and Industry. The workshop is supported by the PNG Australia Partnership.
The workshop is targeted at small and medium road contractors to enhance their abilities on how to go about doing their business. Most importantly, it will help them to better understand the business, technical, financial and contracting aspects of their companies. Its main objective is to give skillful training to small and medium contractors and supporting SMEs to grow.
We're also having major and big contracts with big players from overseas now, but it's equally important that we also support our home-based local contractors.
The Australia PNG Partnership, through their Transport Sector Support Program or TSSP and Works Department, has delivered more than 60 million kina worth of road maintenance works to 70 different local contractors in 2017. However, this does comes with bids which local contractors must fully understand because of the procurements and risks involved to do their work. The Works Department has come up with a template to monitor contracts given by the department so that contractors must get the job done diligently.
So all the contractors who are getting contract with the government, mainly DOW, will be monitoring their performance. So
the Trade, Commerce and Industry Department is there to help small and medium road contractors register their companies and is there to educate them on ways to bid to be awarded contracts.
Through our registration process, we classify contractors. So we tell a contractor, you cannot bid for this project because your paperwork says otherwise, your profile says otherwise. You have only probably less than $1 million kina in your account. You cannot bid for a 5 million kina project.
Meanwhile, Edward Kanakali from Lawama Construction said the main obstacle for road contractors and one that results in unfinished jobs is the land ownership issues.
Authority and DOW to really try and implement this road transfer infrastructure that is in place to have the 40-meter corridor of the road in place, and then that would really assist the contractors.
The 2 days workshop will end tomorrow. The same workshop will be conducted in Medang at the end of this week. Vasanata Yama, National MTV News, Mount Hagen.
Dari Toka Jr. launched his campaign to vie for the Motu Koitabu Assembly Chairmanship in the Motu Koita LLG elections. He launched his campaign at Hanobata Village on Saturday with over 5,000 supporters, all attired in yellow. Among the supporters was PNG's founding father, Grand Chief Sir Michael Somare, Sir Dari Toka Sr. and community leader Lohia Boy Samuel. Sir Michael Somare said 40 years ago, the people of Sipik gave him the mandate to represent them in government. For the next 40 years, they gave him their full support and confidence. He said now he wants the people of Motu Koita to give that same trust and faith to this young leader, Dari Toka. The Motu Koita Assembly elections are held every 5 years. The Motu Koita Assembly Act was endorsed by the Samara government in 2007 and applies to matters relating to the people, villages, communities, customary land, resources and government of the Motu Koita people of the National Capital District. You're watching Monday's News. We take a look at stories making headlines overseas when we return. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas now, and so many Catholics around the world say they have had enough of the inaction from the church on sex abuse scandals. One man in the United States targeted his outrage at the Archbishop of Washington at a mass on Sunday. Cardinal Donald is accused of covering up clergy misconduct when he was Bishop of Pennsylvania.
Just outside the church, I spoke to the man who screamed, "Shame on you," to Cardinal Wuerl. And he says that he screamed that out because he's frustrated, because he's hoping that the church can be held accountable, and he's hoping that the church will be transparent. But he wasn't the only one to send a loud message during that mass in Washington, D.C. There was another woman who sent a very loud message with her silence. She stood up, she crossed her arms, and gave the cardinal her back.
I think he should resign. I think he should understand that just because you didn't mean to do something doesn't mean that there weren't terrible consequences for lots of people. And I feel he should resign as cardinal.
We reached out to the Archdiocese to ask about this protest, and here's what they said in a statement, quote, "Cardinal Wuerl has spoken extensively over the past 2 months, conveyed his profound sadness, apologies, and contrition, and addressed every issue as it has arisen in a straightforward and transparent manner. I was inside that church. I can tell you that the cardinal was received warmly. He also received applause, but it was not until the end of the Mass, when he started speaking about clerical sex abuse, that emotions boiled over."
Scientists believe microwave weapons may have been used to injure U.S. diplomatic staff in Cuba and China in the past few years, beginning in 2016.
Staffers reported mysterious headaches, nausea, and other ailments, and described hearing strange sounds. Now, experts who examined them say the diplomats likely suffered brain injuries, and microwave technology was likely to blame. For more about it, CNN's Patrick Ottman is in Havana.
Investigators looking into the alleged health attacks on U.S. diplomats both here in Cuba and in China have a new theory, and it is looking at so-called microwave weapons. These are devices that emit an electromagnetic beam of energy, very precise beam of energy that can cause numerous symptoms, including apparently concussions. It can cause people to hear sounds that don't actually exist. You know, initially when U.S. diplomats complained that they were being targeted by some sort of mystery device in Cuba, investigators felt that it could involve a sonic weapon. Now they appear to have discounted sonic weapons and are looking at microwaves, saying that there are weapons, there are a number of countries that have had microwave weapon programs going back decades, and that they could have been used to essentially bombard these diplomats in Cuba and in China. That has caused them to have concussion-like symptoms. When doctors look at their actual brain scans, they see evidence of a concussion, evidence of brain trauma, but there was never a physical event that would correspond to that kind of brain trauma. But this is a theory. The FBI has come here on numerous occasions to Cuba to investigate and has not found any hard proof that there were attacks against these diplomats. The Cuban government denies any involvement at all. It says that they have put hundreds of government officials on the case looking into any kind of attack that could have taken place, any kind of health evidence, and said that they have found absolutely nothing. But the U.S. has pushed back, saying that the Cuban government, even if they were not behind the attack, that they must know more. Still, for the moment at least, this remains a theory in search of evidence.
As Americans fire up the grills for the Labor Day holiday, just south of the border in Mexico, many experts will head to a restaurant that's serving up some traditional U.S. barbecue. And it is also taking a stand in the heated immigration debate.
It turns out that selling authentic American barbecue in Mexico is a pretty good business to be in. 8 years after first opening their doors, Mexico City's El Pinche Gringo, that's slang for darn American, has 2 locations, more than 50 employees, and loyal customers lining up for the tender ribs and brisket. Even in the era of Donald Trump and rising tensions between the U.S. and Mexico, the restaurant's American co-owner, Dan DeFossi, says he feels at home.
I've been so grateful in the last couple of years with all the rhetoric going on, all the things that I've never gotten anybody telling me, go back to the U.S.
But DeFosse said he has seen an increase in Mexicans who have been deported from the U.S. seeking work and made a conscious decision to hire them. So far, 7 deportees are on his staff. It's not charity, he says. The deportees are some of his best workers.
You know, sometimes I speak to them in English and they kind of have nostalgia for, because they miss the United States and they miss their lives and they miss their family that still lives in the United States. So if we have a sanctuary, they appreciate that and then they work hard.
One of those deportees, Hugo Hernandez, says he was deported following an arrest for a DUI and sent back to Mexico after a decade living illegally in the U.S. Coming home was not easy.
Your accent changes, and the way you behave, your culture changes. Like everything, it's different. So they see you like you're not from here.
Changes that make finding work even more difficult. When people are deported, they often come back to a country they haven't been to in years, sometimes decades, and hardly even recognize anymore. One of the hardest parts about reassimilating is finding a job. DeFosse hopes he can inspire more kindness on both sides of the border, despite the current political climate.
I can't control what's done over there. All I know is that we have a little bit of barbecue diplomacy here.
Because just like making great barbecue, changing minds takes plenty of time and patience.
There's growing concern about the effects of online gaming, with addicted children exhibiting behaviors akin to problem gambling. That's something the New Zealand government says is looking into, with calls to follow other countries to restricting purchasing made during online gaming.
The games may be fiction, but the consequences are real. Australia's 60 Minutes discovering 14-year-olds like Logan are addicts.
I kind of miss having like friends to go out with and all that, but I got friends online.
He plays day and night, no longer going to school.
It's not as simple as taking the cord away and going, oh well, bad luck, you haven't got the internet, because the repercussions from that, angry, aggressive, we've had to call the police before.
If it's happening in Australia, it's happening here. It's a global market.
But it's not just time being spent, it's money as well.
About 40% of parents apparently let their children spend money in-game.
That addiction to buying virtual skills, weapons and outfits has been likened to gambling and made illegal in parts of Europe. In Britain, video game boxes will now carry warning labels alerting parents of the potential for in-game purchases.
Excitement, the anticipation, the lights, the colours, the sound, all of that builds a false world of engagement, and those random rewards keep a person addicted, exactly like a pokie machine works.
This week, to raise gambling awareness, places across New Zealand are shutting off their pokie machines for 1 hour.
While the turning off of these machines is only symbolic, experts say there are more permanent solutions the government could bring in to reduce gambling harm.
There are ways to block access, there are ways to limit use, time limitations on games, money limitations on what you can participate in online.
The government says New Zealand's gambling laws are out of date and international research is alarming.
Games inside of a game had the same characteristics as those like pedophiles grooming some of their victims, or those to make extreme terrorists. I mean, that's pretty intense stuff.
Gamers could see changes soon, with a discussion paper going to Cabinet in the next few weeks.
Archaeological digs are often filled with surprises, and an astonishing discovery in Mexico is literally putting a new face on the lengthy reign of a king named Pakal the Great.
A dig at a famous Mexican site yields a face mask believed to be from the 7th century.
It is not a representation of a god. After looking at some images, it's possible that it is Pakal the Great. We are quite sure of this at this time.
Pakal the Great was a Mayan king thought to have ascended to the throne aged just 12. He ruled for some 68 years. His reign believed to have been generally prosperous, and the fine architecture he ordered built is now being studied. The mask itself is still being examined, but archaeologists think it is the first time Pakal the Great has been shown as an old man. Meantime, the careful excavation of the abandoned city of Palenque continues.
The idea is to take House E in this eastern part of Palenque to its original state. We're almost at this stage with the floor of House E.
The site is a popular tourist destination with thousands of international visitors marvelling at the area's artefacts every year.
Here with Monday's news, we go for another break. When we come back, some sporting updates in Trukai Sports. See you then.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. We begin with AFL, and with the increasing focus and interest on the Paradise Foods New Kick AFL School Development Program, South Pacific Development Manager Ben Drew says the season is not fully complete for AFL PNG, as certain events are yet to run their full course this year. He says moving forward, AFL PNG is slowly gearing up for some upcoming events, including the all-important International Cup Tournament.
With AFL PNG's Easy Loan competition and New Kick school development programs wind up in Port Moresby and Lae, other centres are still yet to complete these events in their respective provinces. South Pacific Development Manager Ben Drew says the season is still not over for AFL PNG, as several events on the calendar are yet to be completed. The focus for this year will be on the Paradise Foods School AFL program.
And then for the remainder of this year, it's a strong focus on our Paradise Foods New Kick. We've still got a couple competitions running. I know there's a competition in Kimbe Town at the moment, so our Paradise Foods New Kick competition is running up there, and there's a couple of those comps running in Kavieng as well. So preparations for the 17 girls, and then really heavy community focus leading into the end of the year, supporting the kids who are going into exams that are part of our programs, making sure that they're attending their school classes and getting prepared for their exams, which are super important to them and for us, and then hitting the ground running for next year.
Ben says the other area of concern for AFL PNG is identifying players for 2020 International Cup, and will be conducting trials and training in early 2020 to select new players for the Flames and Mosquitoes.
Next International Cup is not till 2020, so those preparations will begin, I would say. The gentleman in charge of those areas will be starting to sit down now and sort of start their planning probably to the start of next year to have a good 12-18 month run to the Cup. Obviously the men want to defend their title, and the Flames, the women, want to keep increasing up the ladder and make their presence felt as well. There's so many good young women coming through playing that there's opportunities for there.
Ben says with opportunities arising overseas, it is up to the players to play and work hard in order to be selected for the scholarship programs in Australia.
We've got a young boy doing a leadership program with the Euroa Football Club down in country Victoria. He's helping coach one of the junior sides down there, and he's learning how to not just be a footballer but out off the field as well, and he's doing a lot of education around there. And that program's running really well for Carter, and we're hopeful of a few more boys and a couple of girls next year getting the opportunity to do the same as part of our scholarships and making our way down into those programs.
Meanwhile, not only does AFL PNG provides pathway opportunities for young players playing the sport, but also focusing on developing skills, techniques, discipline and respect towards one another, so that these young AFL enthusiasts grow up to be great sportsmen and women in the future. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
To touch football, and with 11 teams contesting in the Central Touch Tournament, next week we'll see the knockout stages of the competition, with winners progressing into the finals. The matches are being played in different divisions, from juniors to under 18, the open, men's and women's, as well as the mixed division.
With 4 sports up for grabs in the final, the competition will see its knockout rounds next weekend in all 4 divisions: juniors, under 18, open and mixed, with winners proceeding into the final playoffs. Currently leading the competition on the scoreboard in the junior division is Stallions. In the open men's division is Mustangs, and leading the open women's division is Stallions. In the open mixed divisions, Mustangs are leading. The Central Touch competition has been running for over 2 decades and has been played in various locations in the city. Teams taking part in the competition are from 8 and 9 Mile, Gerehu, Hohola, and other areas within Port Moresby. Defending champions Mustangs, who kept the title for 7 years, are hoping to retain their win again this year. Interested teams willing to take part in the competition are urged to register for next season. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
Don't go away. Trukai Sports continues with more after these messages.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. Turning overseas now, Kiwi Tim Price has won the prestigious Bali Horse Trail just a few months after his wife won the badminton event. That makes them just the second married couple to achieve this feat after Princess Anne and Mark Phillips in 1971.
Meet the new golden couple of the equestrian world. Gorgeous! After Tim Price pulled off the ride of his life.
In 2017, and now the winners of the Land Rover Burley Horse Trials.
To become the 5th Kiwi to snap up the coveted Burley title.
Just elation.
Yeah?
I can't believe how how that's felt, because I've had some nice days before, but not a glory day like this.
It's big cause for celebration for the 39-year-old who started the day at the top of the leaderboard with a narrow margin after a spectacular cross-country, before he and Ringwood Skyboy carried out a flawless show-jumping round, finishing the event with 27.3 penalty points.
He's a great jumper, tries hard, doesn't always pull off a clear round, but in a big occasion, it's nice that it happens on the right moment, eh?
Price says he's just, quote, keeping up with his missus after wife Janelle won the equally prestigious badminton event in May.
Unbelievable, really. For me to win badminton and him Burley, the 2 biggest events in the world in the same year, in a matter of months is incredible.
One of Price's riding heroes, 5-time Burley champion Andrew Nicholson, completed an outstanding Burley for the Kiwis, finishing 3rd.
Well, I'm very, very pleased with, Swallow Springs' first time at this level. I've had a lot of confidence in him.
This is the 14th time a Kiwi has won the prestigious Burley Horse Trials and shows the current state of New Zealand eventing, which is good news given that the World Equestrian Games are just 2 weeks away.
We'll go into the World Games, full of confidence.
And it wasn't hard to get a smile out of the Cantabrian, who's today around $185,000 better off. Not a bad day at the office.
It comes as no surprise that returning Silver Fern Laura Langman is using her exemption to cross back over to the ditch to reunite with her coach.
32-year-old was a foundation member of the Sunshine Coast Lightning in 2017 when the franchise won the first of its 2 titles. Langman returned home sitting out this year's entire season before being named in the Silver Fern squad. Netball New Zealand rewarding the 141 Test veteran with an exemption.
It's been a dream, to be honest, to be able to play in Super Netball but also still be able to play for the Fern. So I'm really pumped for what 2019 has in store.
Langman says she'll complete her New Zealand commitments around February before heading over to the Sunshine Coast.
And that's a wrap for Trukai Sports this evening. Up next, we'll have the weather details for the next 24 hours. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
A look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours. In the southern region, Port Moresby, fine, becoming partly cloudy with a top temperature of 30 degrees. 30 degrees as well, but mostly fine for Daru. Some rain and drizzles expected in Kerma and Alota with a top of 30 degrees, and cloudy weather expected for Popondetta. To the Momasa region, rain and showers expected in Leh with a top of 30 degrees, 27 degrees, and rain for Wau. A few showers expected for Medang and Wewak with a top of 30. 30 degrees as well, with morning showers expected in Vanimo. To the New Guinea Islands region, some rain and thunderstorms expected in Loranga with a top of 30, 31 degrees, and rain and showers for Kavieng, a shower or two for Kokopo, Rabaul and Kimbe, rain and showers with a top of 30 for Buka. And in the Highlands region, the major centres of Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabek can expect some showers over the next 24 hours with morning fog. A look at the forecast for small ships, but there is a renewal of a strong warning for all coastal waters. Strong southeasterly winds of 25 to 34 knots are expected to continue for the next 24 hours, causing rough seas, while small craft and boats are advised to take the necessary precautions before and after going out to sea. Waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island, to Kerma, to Yule Island, to Hood Point, to Samurai Island, and with waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, with waters of Samurai Island to Cape Bogle, Finchafen, with waters of Finchafen through Vitias and Dampier Straits, to CST Island, to Long Island, and with waters of Long Island to Medang, Bogia, Wewak, Aitape, Vanimo, and the northern PNG Indonesian border, seas 1.5 to 2.5 meters. Waters of Manus and its western group of islands, seas 0.5 to 1.3 meters. Waters of New Island to East New Britain and Bougainville, seas 0.5 to 1.5 meters. And waters of West New Britain, seas 1.5 to 2 meters. And a look at the ocean forecast for PNG areas. Coral Sea sees moderate to rough with southeasterly winds at 20 to 34 knots. Solomon Sea sees moderate to rather rough with southeasterly winds at 10 to 25 knots. Bismarck Sea sees moderate to rough with southeasterly winds at 20 to 25 knots. And the Pacific Ocean sees slight with southeast to southwesterly winds at 10 to 15 knots.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And before we go, a recap of our top stories again this evening. Women, the focus for the next round of APEC meetings. PNGDF engineers set for Manam damage assessments. And polio vaccination rollout in Leh into its mop-up phase. And that's the news, sport and weather for today, Monday, the 3rd of September 2018. Tune in at 8 p.m. tonight for My Province, My Country, as we take you to the Southern Highlands Province. But for now, on behalf of the entire MTV News team right around the country, pleasant viewing on your number one to watch. Good night.